Welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am K. Rajan, working in the Department of History, Pondicherry University, Pondicherry. And today, the topic of our subject is Indian culture. And the paper that we are dealing today is Archaeology, Principle and Methods. And the module is Absolute Dating Methods, particularly the radiocarbon dating methods. Among the absolute dating methods, there are several methods are available. The radiocarbon dating is more reliable and more it is useful. The main objective of this understanding this radiocarbon dating is that the significance of radiocarbon dating or the methodology they've adopted in arriving this date will be explained in this lecture. And if you take the radiocarbon dating or relative dating methods, already as I have explained, the relative dating system is having a limited role in specifying the date. But in the case of absolute dating system, it gives exact date or plus or minus what we call it 30 years. So that helps in a long way to determine the cultural process. Absolute date provides the most needed date for archaeological material. The absolute dates revolutionized our understanding of the past. It is more advantageous than relative dating methods as it gives absolute date to the undated objects. When you among the absolute dating methods, there are several methods are available in the world nowadays, but the popular absolute dating methods are the radiocarbon dating, thermoluminescence dating, that you are having potassium argon method or uranium series method, the fission track method, the electron spin reconnaissance or tree ring dating methodology or what we popularly call dendrochronology, the amino acid racemization or obsidian hydration, archaeomagnetism and historical dating. Historical dating in the sense any historical document that have absolute dating in the material. So all these other than historical dating, all other dating methodology can be put under four broad processes. So that four processes are radioactive processes, chemical processes, or geological processes and biological processes. Among them, the radiocarbon dating techniques using the radioactive processes has become more popular among the archaeologists. Among the radioactive processes, they are having different techniques and different methods, but these are the methods what we call radiocarbon, potassium argon, uranium lead, thorium lead, fission track, thermoluminescence, optically stimulated luminescence, electron spin resonance, all coming under the category of radioactive process. So this radiocarbon dating is an offshoot of atomic bomb. When they are preparing atomic bomb, when the atomic research was going on in the West, Willard Libby developed this method in 1948 and during the Second World War. So this method has quickly grabbed by the other sister disciplines like archaeologists and other geologists. So in India, this has been, we are having several radiocarbon laboratories, but among them, the Birbal Sakhani Institute of Paleobotany located at Lucknow and the Physical Research Laboratory, what we popularly called PRL at Ahmedabad, and Institute of Physics, recently it has been established at Bhubaneswar, and NGRI, the National Geophysical Research Institute at Hyderabad, and now very recently the Inter-University Accelerator Center was established by the UGC in Delhi. So these laboratories are helping to date the archaeological material, particularly the organic material. So the radiocarbon dating is based on the organic material. You can't date other material. So for dating a or getting a C14 dating, you require organic material. Why this organic material is required means the principle involved in getting the date out of this organic material. See, there is a important principle involved in the radiocarbon dating. It is very important to understand this methodology involved or the principles involved in the radiocarbon dating. When in the atmosphere we are having several gases, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, like that there are so many gases are available in the atmosphere. Among the gases, the two gases is more important to us. One is carbon dioxide, another one is nitrogen in the case of C14 dating. When the cosmic rays attacks, bombards all the atoms of the gases, and not only it attacks only the nitrogen or carbon dioxide, it attacks all. In this carbon atom or the nitrogen atom having different atomic numbers. So this carbon will be having 6 proton inside, 6 neutron in the nucleus. On the outer orbit, it is having 6 electron. In the sense, 6 plus 6 normally considered as a number that becomes 12. So we call it as C12. In the nitrogen, we are having 7 proton and 7 neutron. On the outside, we are having 7 electron. So when all the atoms will be inside that number will be equal, 7 proton, 7 neutron or 7 electron. So in this 7 neutron and 7 proton, and we are having a 14, that was the total number, that comes nitrogen 14. When these cosmic rays bombard the nitrogen atoms or collide with the nitrogen atoms, in the process, it removes 1 proton from the nucleus and add 1 neutron in that place. In the sense, the proton is having a positive energy, the electron is having the negative energy, the neutron there is no energy for it. It is a neutral. So in the sense, 1 positive energy is removed from the nucleus of the nitrogen, and in that place 1 neutron has been replaced. While the proton, when the positive energy goes out of the nucleus of the atom of the nitrogen, this electron, negative electron, or say the negative content, negative energy that is holding by this electron also goes along with that. In the sense, 1 proton and 1 electron goes off from the atom of the nitrogen. As I already told you, that 6 proton and 6 neutron and 6 electron is a carbon. That means C12. When 1 proton is released from the nucleus of the nitrogen, it becomes 6 proton, and outside also from orbit 1 electron also goes off. So they are also having 6. The 6 plus 6, it become 12 if you add it. But in the 6 proton, 6 neutron becomes 14. So that way, though it is having 14, the total number, but the 6 electron and 6 proton makes this is a carbon. But though it is a carbon, the carbon supposed to have 6 proton and 6 neutron in the nucleus. But in the case of the radioactive material, that is nitrogen turned into carbon. Carbon will be having 6 proton and 6 neutron, and it becomes 12. So we call it C12. In the radioactive material is having 6 proton and 8 neutron. Total becomes 14. So it is become C14. It is called C14 because it is contained 6 proton and 6 electron. So we are having two things. One is C12, that is normal carbon, and one is a radioactive carbon, that is in the nucleus that contains 6 proton and 8 neutron. This radioactive carbon C14 wants to go back to the original position of nitrogen. This process always there. But however, the cosmic rays bombards this atmosphere continuously. So in the atmosphere, we are always having C12 and C14. This all the living organism, particularly the plants, consume carbon. Carbon in the sense the C12 as well as C14. When this C14 and C12 is consumed, so the plant becomes radioactive material. So in the biosphere, or you can say that we human will always consume plants. So the radioactive material will pass to the human body, so we become also radioactive material. Or animals may consume the plants, that also become radioactive material. We may also consume animals. So that way the whole organisms or organic material, or you can say living organism in the world has become a radioactive material. As long as this process is there, that means as long as we are consuming the radioactive material in the name of plants or animal, there won't be any disturbance in the stability of the C12 and C14. Once that organism dies, if the plant, we cut the tree or we kill the animal or we ourselves dies, from that day onwards, we are not anymore consuming a radioactive material either from the plant or either from the animal. So that way our consumption stops. After that, what happened? This C14 wants to go back to the original position by absorbing one proton, one electron and releasing a one neutron. This radioactive process takes place in a fixed time scale. That is the significance of the discovery or invention of this Libby. What he says that 1% of the radioactive material will, or 1% will come, goes down, or goes back to nitrogen, or we say that it turns into carbon C14 to nitrogen, or it goes to original position. So within 83 years, the percentage of the C14 will comes down to 99%. So after another 83 years, from 99%, again it comes down. So slowly, like that, in 5,730 years, the quantity of the C14 will comes to 50%. So that means it become half. So that is called half-life years of carbon. For every atom, we are having half-life period. That it is not concerned to archaeologists. So the carbon alone is concerned to us. So that way the half-life period of C14 is 5,730 years. When we collect a organic material, either it may be a cloth, it may be a wood, it may be ivory or any other bone or any other organic material, when we collect from the archaeological site or within the archaeological context, even charcoal, then if you send that organic material to the laboratory, they measure that how much C14 is available in the sample, and how much it has been turned to in another form. Based on that percentage, they will calculate the date of the sample. By that way, that sample has been dated in radiocarbon dating. According to this principle, when the cosmic rays coming from the outer surface, it will collide with the nitrogen that is available in the atmosphere. These cosmic rays, when hitting this nitrogen, it creates several neutrons. So when this nitrogen atom is having a 7 proton and 7 neutron in the nucleus. In the outer orbit, it is having 7 electron. So the proton are positive energy, or electrons are negative energy. So when you are having a 7 proton and 7 electron in the nitrogen nucleus, or we can say in the nucleus in any atom, that will be called as nitrogen. So when these cosmic rays hit this nitrogen nucleus, what it operates means, it will remove 1 proton, and it will, in that place, it will place 1 neutron. In the sense, after the cosmic rays attacking this nitrogen nucleus, that the 7 proton will become 6 proton, but 7 neutron will become 8 neutron. So the total will be 14, but the content will be different. This proton, when it is going away from this, going out of this nucleus, while going, since it is a positive energy, when it is going out of this nucleus, it will always carry 1 electron. So when this in the sense, after this cosmic rays bombardment, the nitrogen atom inside will be having 6 proton, and outside will be having 6 neutron. And 6 electron. So normally 6 plus 6. When you are having any atom having a 6 proton and 6 electron, then it is considered as carbon. But it is not a carbon, but nitrogen atom has been changed into carbon atom. So this is called radioactive carbon. Secondly, this inside we are having 6 proton and 8 neutron. It is imbalanced, or you can say there should be 6 proton and 6 neutron. Instead, we are having 6 proton and 8 neutron. So it is not C12, but it is C14. So in normal carbon, you will be having 6 proton and 6 neutron. 6 plus 6, it becomes 12. So we call it C12. But in the radioactive carbon, it will be having 6 proton and 8 neutron. 6 plus 8, it becomes 14. That's why we call it as, this is C14. As long as that means that all the organic organism, or you can say a tree, absorbs this carbon from the atmosphere. So in the atmosphere, we are having both normal carbon C12 and the radioactive carbon C14. So in the sense, it is available equally in the atmosphere. When the tree absorbs carbon and it consumes the carbon, then the tree will become radioactive material. When we consume the plant, or the animal consumes the plant and we consume animal, so we all will become radioactive material. In the sense, all the organisms in the earth will become radioactive material. So as long as we are this C14, the radioactive carbon, wants to go back to this original position of nitrogen. So it always tries to go back. But as long as as well as we are survive, every day we consume. So the percentage of C12 and C14 is maintained in the body of, or in any organism, organic material. Once it dies, what it happens? This C14 releases the energy and they absorbs from the atmosphere. They want to, by removing the one neutron and absorbing one proton, they want to go to the original position. That means they want to become a nitrogen. So, but all the C12 will remain static. Only C14 decays, in the sense C14 is not literally decaying, in the sense C14 turning into nitrogen. So the number of years takes really for in the sense there are 50% of C14 and 50% of C12s are available. 50% become 100. But these C14 after death start decaying. That means 1% will goes down in 83 years. So in the sense, in the 5,730 years, that quantity of the C14 will become off. So in the sense, this is off life of C14, they call it. So when we send the sample to the scientist, to the laboratory, they count how much C12 is there, how much C14 is there, how much it has been decayed. Based on the percentage, they identify the date. So how many years it are taken to undertake this decay process and to come to the level of this percentage. So this is the way the radiocarbon dating is being, methodology is being followed, and this helps. And since the date, there is a element of risk is there, in the sense they give deviation will be there, the what we call standard deviation. There will be a 30 years deviation is there. Earlier when you send a sample, they in the laboratory they release that proton embedded or the C14 material in the atmosphere and they count it. And now there is another method called AMS dating, that accelerated mass spectrometry. In the same, when it releasing these atoms, some atoms may miss. So there is element of risk will be there in dating. But in this AMS method, they count without releasing inside the atom itself. So the reliability is becoming more and more. So that way, this radiocarbon dating is dominating the Indian archaeology. So when you are sending a sample, nowadays your charcoal, if you are sending, that is organic material, that you require 10 to 20 milligrams. And wood, if you are sending, that also require 20 grams. Ivory or peat or organic material or shell, textile, bone or any plant, any organic material you can send as a sample to get them dated. And how to collect the collection of the sample. How do you collect the sample? When you are collecting the sample, already I told you that cosmic rays are bombarding the particular nitrogen atom. So this, when you are removing the sample from the archaeological context or from the soil, that should not be exposed to the cosmic rays. So if you are exposing the cosmic rays, again it may affect the sample. That's why they are telling that better you cover it. So collect the sample with the help of a clean towel or knife or spoon. Don't use your hand. Why you should not use your hand? Means you are radioactive material. Because you are organic material, and when you are touching that material, your radioactive may pass to that radioactive or disturb that radioactive. That's why they are telling you should not use your hand. And avoid handling the charcoal with hand. That's why we are telling. And collect as much as sample as possible. Don't rely that they require only 20 milligram, I will only collect 20 milligram. You collect as much as sample. So when they cleaning that sample, that quantity of the sample that you are sending may reduce. So for that purpose, always you send large amount of sample to the laboratory and place the sample in an aluminum foil. So it should not come into contact with any organic material or cosmic rays. If the sample is wet, allow it to dry under the shadow, not under the sun. So before packing, and also a sample should be labeled properly, and also all the information related to the site name, the trench name, when you have collected, how you have collected, where you have collected, when you have collected, in what context you have collected, because these all the information required for the laboratory, whether you are collected from a well or collected from a dry zone or collected from wet zone. This all they for laboratory purpose, how much contamination may be there, for that purpose they will require this much of information. And you should not assume that I should preserve it. For that purpose you don't apply any preservative, because the preservative may change the charcoal chamber. So for instance, this is the one of the excavation site in which you are having a pot it is buried. So that pot contains some of the organic material. And you see that I have completely, the pot is exposed. Very interestingly, on the top of the pot, the name is written as Chamban Sumanan. So you can see that their name is written, it is half buried. And if you date this material, or if you date a material collected from this pot or material close to this pot, if you date them, then automatically the date of the Brahmi script, you can date the Brahmi script or the pot also. So that way, from Kodumanal, each stratigraphical layer, for instance, you see the 15 centimeter, 60 centimeter, 65 centimeter, 80 centimeter, 120 centimeter, the sample have been collected very carefully, and it has been sent to Beta Analytic Laboratory in USA, and they have dated to 200 BC, that what we call conventional age, and 275 BCE, and 300 BC, 330 BC, 408 BC. You see that when you are collecting the sample very carefully without any contamination, you see that the date also comes very in a proper manner. So that way, this whole deposit from 15 centimeter to 120 centimeter, we are having a crucible furnace, we are having an iron furnace, we are having gemstone technology, we are having textile technology, we are having sill technology, we are having graffiti marks, we are having Brahmi script. All could be dated by sending a sample from the particular context. So that way it has been dated. Another site which we have excavated at Purundal, we are having one Iron Age megalithic monuments. There are a lot of pots have been kept. In one of the pot, the four-legged jar, the in the corner where they have kept, we contain 2.5 kilo paddy. This paddy has been, since it is organic material, and it has been sent for dating. And very interestingly, close to this pot, there is a ring stand written with the name of that time. It is as written as a Vaira in a Brahmi script. So we don't know the date of this grave, and also we don't know the date of this Brahmi script. We don't know the date of this man Vaira. So when we are sending this organic material paddy to the dating, it gives the date of 490 BCE. So the 490 BC, that date we have got for this paddy, maybe paddy would have been cultivated about 10 years before or 20 years before, but paddy will not survive for longer period of time. So the date, even if you take conservative dating, even 450 BC or middle of 5th century BC can be dated to this Brahmi script as well as to the grave. So far in India, the Brahmi script, based on the historical document, because all the Ashokan edicts have been written on the rock, you can't date it. So then other Brahmi script, we believe that before 3rd century BC, we don't have any script in India. But this radiocarbon dating changed the scenario. Now we believe that our Brahmi script or our Indian script will goes back to 5th century BC. So in future, such discoveries may push the date of our script further back. So we have to wait. So another grave, again we have excavated. In that excavator, you would see that lot of material, grave goods were there. In that also we collected a paddy that has been cultivated one. In that paddy has been again dated, that gives 450 BC. You can see the paddy that kept in this four-legged jar, and again it has been dated to 450 BC. So in total, the two graves has given the date of 490 BC and 450 BC. That way, we changed the history of India. In the sense, so far we believe that history starts with the decipherment of written document, the date of the written document. That way, so far our Indian history was started with, early history started with 3rd century BC. In a single day, we have moved that early history from 3rd century BC to 6th century or 5th century BC. How to read this radiocarbon dating? The laboratory will give a chart, and then archaeologist has to determine which date will goes to which is suitable for his sample. He may be having other datings like a historical document may be having. So he can compare this radiocarbon dating with the historical dating, and he can come to a conclusion. So this one, this chart on the left side, what we are having radiocarbon determination that has been given by the laboratory. Down on is based on the dendrochronology. When you compare with this both, this sample is given 2430 years before, that is plus or minus 30s of course is there. So the reliability or probability is 95.4%. So that way we can, this sample has been dated to 490 BC. And as I told you that left hand axis shows the radiocarbon concentration expressed in years before present, and the bottom axis shows calendar years derived from the tree ring data. So the pair of blue curves shows the radiocarbon measurement and on the tree rings, and the red curve on the left indicates the radiocarbon concentration in the sample. So the gray histogram shows the possible ages of the sample. So the archaeologist or the historian has to decide which date suits your sample. So when in the case of Porundal, we might say that 90% surety that sample comes from between 750 BC or 403 BC. So that way, the history, understanding the past or understanding the date of the past drastically changes with these scientific inputs. So that way, the radiocarbon dating or absolute dating collected from argomagnetism or TL dating or radiocarbon fission track, obsidian, or you can say our AMS date, which gives a bit better picture for understanding our past. The radiocarbon dating methods are extensively used in archaeological context. And secondly, C14 dating method is widely followed in archaeology as it provides absolute date to undated archaeological material. The use of C14 dating method become manifold and to the period before the advent of written documents. When you are having a written documents, that use of dating may be very less important. When you are not having a written document, at that time this radiocarbon dating importance become manifold. So the protohistoric era, what we call it Harappan period or Chalcolithic period or any other before early historic period or Iron Age, all could be dated with the help of this radiocarbon dating. Thank you.